Have you ever found yourself in a toxic relationship wondering how you got to this place? Or maybe reflecting back on a relationship that ended, trying to figure out how you overlooked some obvious signs that this was going to turn out to be a mess? Well, there's too many relationships and marriages ending today because couples are running to the altar, overlooking what I believe are some very obvious relational red flags. So that's what we're going to talk about today on Relationshots. Welcome to Relationshots. My name's Eric Wooten, and if this is your first time with us, I don't know where you've been, but I'm glad you made it. Feel free to go ahead and click the subscribe button below and the bell notification so you don't miss opportunities in the future to up your relational IQ. So today we're going to talk about what I believe are some obvious red flags that you should never ignore when dating. And if you're already married and some of these pertain to your relationship, it doesn't mean you need to get divorced, so slow down. It simply means you may want to have some discussions around expectations and boundaries in these areas. So one of my biggest frustrations when counseling couples is the answer I get when I ask the question of did they see some of their current struggles in marriage as issues when dating? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. So you mean to tell me that you saw these issues when you were dating, you went ahead and got married anyway, and now you're surprised that the very same issues you had when you were dating are causing problems in your marriage? Yeah, that awkward long pause, that's the exact same thing that happens in a counseling session, although they don't see all the looks on my face because I keep a poker face. So in an attempt to avoid awkward pauses in future counseling sessions, I want to give you 5 red flags you do not want to ignore in dating relationships. Red flag number 1, they have strained or absent relationships with their family. To which I know you're going to say, yeah, but if you knew her family, they're dysfunctional and it's really good that she doesn't have any interaction with them. To which I will say, yeah, that's probably the case in maybe 2% of the people. But in most of the people, the reason they have strained or absent relationships is because the person has not yet learned how to have conflict and resolve it in a healthy way. They've not yet learned how to set healthy boundaries with other people. And instead, their tendency is they're going to run away or they're going to cut people out of their lives when the going gets tough. And I'm telling you, that's not the kind of person you want to be in a marriage with when conflict arises down the road. Red flag number 2, they describe themselves as, quote, private. Now I know what you're going to say. Yes, he's a private person. He's been hurt by people in the past and been burned, so he doesn't trust a whole lot of people. And that might be the case, but more likely the reason he's private is because he actually has things in his life that he'd rather keep hidden from you. Too many people hide behind this idea of I'm a private person, when the reality is they have some things in their lives that they don't want people to see or that they haven't been able to get freedom from, and they don't want to let people in. But the problem is they're not going to get freedom from it on their own. We all need accountability in our lives. We all need other people in our lives that will help us grow, that will help us heal, that will help us find freedom. If we could have done it on ourselves, we already would have done it. So if you're dating a private person, the problem is going to be at some point in the relationship, you're probably going to hurt them, you're probably going to let them down, and when you do, because it's inevitable, they're probably going to go private on you and pull away and shut you out of their life. It's really likely that the reason they're private is because there's some things in their lives that they don't want people to know or see, and I promise you that's going to cause you problems somewhere down the road. Red flag number 3 is they have a hard time saying, I'm sorry. A person like that can never admit when they're wrong, that doesn't want to take responsibility for how their behavior has impacted you, and always has an explanation for why what they did is not what you think they intended to do to you, that's the kind of person that's going to be tough to have a relationship with. Listen, relationships are about letting each other down and hurting each other. It's inevitable. We're going to do it unintentionally, so sorry should be a regular part of everybody's vocabulary if you want to have a healthy relationship with another person. Relationship expert John Gottman says that it's not the amount of conflict in or not in a couple's life that determines whether they're going to succeed in the long term, but it's actually the presence of what he calls repair attempts, which are attempts to repair the relationship when there's conflict. I'm sorry is a repair attempt. It's somebody coming to the other person, trying to make peace with them in the midst of it. If you've got somebody who is unwilling to say, I'm sorry, what they're saying is they don't care about you and they don't care about the way their behavior may impact you. That's a red flag. Red flag number 4, they treat people poorly who can't do anything for them. Think the waiter or waitress, the drive-through person at Taco Bell, the subordinate at work that they work with. What this reveals is just a character trait. At their core, they truly believe that they are better than certain people. This is not a good way to treat people, and if you're a Christian, this is unbiblical and ungodly. The Apostle Paul tells us in Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4, that we're not supposed to even think of ourselves. We're supposed to think of others, not look out for our own interests, but look out for the interest of others. What you may say to this is, yeah, but they treat me so well. I know they don't treat other people well all the time, but they always treat me well. Right now, because they're getting something from you. But the way they treat people who can't do anything are the way that they'll treat you in the midst of conflict in your relationship, when you're not fulfilling all the needs they believe you should be fulfilling in their lives, and when they are not feeling you in the relationship any longer. The way they treat those people are the way they're going to treat you, and that's a character flaw and a red flag in relationship. Red flag number 5, one simple word: debt. Yeah, I know some of you may go, but I have debt too, and I can't just, I get that. And I realize that people have debt for different reasons. Some people may have student loan debt. Some people may have a car payment because they need a car to hold down a job. Some people have unforeseen medical expenses that come into their world and they have debt from that. And I get that. Why I'm talking about debt is because oftentimes a person's debt will give you a good indicator on the priorities in their life and give you a good indicator on how they value, view, and handle money. So you want to ask some questions around what kind of debt they have and what that looks like, because not all debt is equal. For example, a $250 car payment for a reliable car to get you to and from work is much different than a $650 car payment for a brand new car to make him feel better because he's 5'6". Those are different kinds of debt. So when you're talking or dating with somebody, you want to know what kind of debt they have in their life, because that will be an indicator often of whether they always have to have instant gratification and really don't care about how that impacts them in the future. That will impact your relationship if you plan on having a long-term relationship with them. So you want to be aware of that kind of red flag. If any of these red flags exist in your relationship, then you might want to proceed with caution, ask some really good questions, or else just run like Forrest Gump. If you're already married and you see some of these areas in your relationship, then I would suggest sitting down and having some real discussions about expectations and boundaries in these areas so you can begin moving your marriage in a different direction. I look forward to having a conversation with you about this topic in the comments section below. If you think this will be helpful to somebody you know who's in this situation, I encourage you to share it with a friend, and I look forward to getting together with you next time on Relationshots.